Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Musso podcast. We're your hosts, Jama, Hadi, and Gone. And on this podcast, as you already know, we share a microphone for fresh conversations on current affairs and women's realities beyond a single story. It's great to be back here again this week. We hope you all are going to have a very, very amazing week. Back to work this week, so I don't know. if
there is a God.
Haters be hating. Haters be hating.
There is a God.
But yeah, so that's where I am at for the how are we doing. I'm not good. How are you guys? What's popping? Apart from celebrating my misery.
The heat.
Oh, that's still here. It's still here. But I think it's negligible. If you ignore it, it could go away.
Right. Okay.
Do you know what did light off in your area a few days ago?
Oh, we knew about a line fuck now.
Wow.
Because like it's not light off it. I'm gonna check the tweet, see. So I woke up. You know what happened that night? We were going to bed and then duga si nek berek light off. So we slept and slept before like
You were
3.
able to sleep in the heat?
No, because like we had the windows open and all. So I was tired as well.
We had
So
no
we just
mosquitoes?
slept. So we slept here. And then 3 new air. I looked at us, I was like, how do cash power be more because it didn't make sense to me. We went outside, tried to put in the cash power, and it did not work. So that's how we knew there was that. But also, so we went back to sleep. 4:30 again, we got up again. I'm like, no, this has to be a cash power issue. Went and tried again. But $1,000 cash power that we could not load into the thing. Like so that day we woke up pretty early, 7:30 I think.
So they get a sleeping.
We woke up and then air would light munyo. So light was literally
it
off
came
from
around-
bedtime to wake up time.
It came around 8:30, 9
Yeah.
o'clock. It's when I was leaving to go to work. That's
when
when
it
it
came.
on. Because I didn't sleep. I slept at 7 and I woke up at 8. And then I swear, I was deciding on which hotel would
go.
allow me to check in at 3 in the morning because I could not
Because that's
do
when
it.
we woke up too. And like
I
I thought
didn't
the cash
sleep
power
at
was
all.
done, not making nyamla. So
Man,
yeah.
literally, I got home body after 11 to 12, you know. Numa sango, I glad no more of it.
Yeah, it was around that time. And we
That
know
was
it's
it.
not gonna get better, so let's brace ourselves.
I mean, I bought a rechargeable fan yesterday.
Yeah, damn it.
I did that. I'm literally like putting all
Measures
in place because what happened to me, it cannot repeat. I cannot deal with it again.
What's happening in Lamin?
Well, for one, we can't relate to this electricity madness. What we can relate to is nyakando. We went 2 days without water.
It's one thing or the other. Always.
2 days. 2 whole days without water. As in, Dama wacha ligay dimba and I couldn't do anything. Dama just literally talk for flu. No shower, dara talk. Couldn't pray, couldn't do anything because ndox amut. Ben ndox tay si fajar la soga ñew. So that's the madness we're living
So when was
in.
the last time you sang Ungo?
No, sangu naa tey.
True.
ndox ñëw na si fajar. Xoolal dama dem ipi ma gis ndox ma dem di root bari go yeeg lu nekk laa root.
No, that's why, because that was our life for a long time. So secure this, my ibe shower be and the water actually comes out. It's a surprise to me because we've gone like close to 10 years at home where you don't see water during the day.
Jeez.
So good thing they rot and like early morning you rot and then that's it. You don't see it again. So then talk about time and pump it again.
So politicians is learning this today.
So that's what we're going to be talking about. That's what we're going to be talking about. I know we've already had an episode where we were dragging. You know, I saw a tweet today, very funny. When Gambia, I'm in government, we have a VDC.
Oh my
Apparently,
God.
they were listening to the radio and someone called in to say, we don't have a government, we have a VDC. For those who don't know what a VDC is, the VDC is the Village Development Committee. And to be honest, I think that's an insult to the VDCs. Because the VDCs do work in their communities. But yo!
Oh my God, I'm down.
No, it's an actual insult to them.
It's an insult
No,
to
like
the
this country
VDCs.
stresses. Imagine, I'll think about having every year it rains, right?
Yeah.
Every year, you know that at this time of the year, you're going to have to expect rain. No roads are fixed. No Quran. No street lights even. Nothing.
You know
I think they should
craziest
hire.
one? This Kotu highway, the Kotu bridge,
Yeah.
it floods every year.
It's
And
gonna
after
flood again
every
this
rainy
year.
season, they forget about it. So this year, everyone is bracing
It's
for it
gonna
to get
flood
flooded again. And
They did the concrete thing there. I don't think it's
no,
going
but
to
it's
stop the
supposed to
flooding.
be a bridge. It's supposed to go
Yeah.
all the way up because
No, they wouldn't.
Nah.
They got concrete, plastic, all of them.
So
Anyways,
you
before
about
you be, are you gonna be here to vote for the elections?
no, but I could come back. I mean, I got a voter's card anyway, just to
Okay.
be sure. I'm doing my civic duties.
Perfect. So that's a good way to get into today's episode. We're tired of complaining about this country and everything that's not working. The heat, even we're blaming the VDC, the national VDC for that. The electricity, the water, and everything that's gonna happen as the NAWED progresses. I can't even begin to think of all the put stuff and the waters and the choirs.
You know, I have an actual my biggest fear. I'm not afraid of many things in life, by the way, but waters,
Yeah.
frogs. No, I have a genuine phobia of frogs. It's not funny. If I see it,
And
I'll
you're
start
putting
to
that
cry.
out there.
Oh, remove it.
And you're putting that out there.
Remove it.
Noted with thanks.
Remove it.
Anyway, so like I was saying, it's a good way to get into today's episode. We're discussing women and politics in the Gambia. If you're following anything in Gambia at this point, you know politics has taken over our 2021. Reason being, we're heading into presidential elections in December, and already preparations are in high gear. And IEC is already rolling. Launched voter registration in May. It should end by the time this episode comes out. And so we are going to be discussing that. So the Gambian elections in general, but specifically looking at women's political participation, their role in the elections, and everything around that. And to get us rolling, we're sharing a quote this week from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former president of Liberia, and she says, "Full political participation will become a reality for us as women when quotas and set-asides become a relic of the past, when our access in participatory institutions at all levels is considered a right, and when we no longer feel compelled to wage campaigns and stage protests in order to have a say in the decisions that affect our lives, be it at the peace table or in the political and economic arenas." Yep.
I love this quote. So
Yeah,
much.
it's a really dope quote.
It's all encompassing, and it's coming from a woman who's also supporting a lot of shit. So she has this initiative where she is mentoring women, not just young, but also older women who are interested in politics, and just trying to help them through that journey.
I think
So,
Lady Bawada
she
once
is.
mentioned that
She's
been
a
mentored.
fellow.
Yeah.
I think Tuma also recently, if I'm not mistaken, is also a fellow. But yeah, so we've got our quote of the week from former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And we're discussing women and politics in the Gambia. We always hear that phrase, women's participation, women's political participation, women in leadership. And we have elections coming up. What is that looking like in Gambia? First of all, have you guys registered for your voters' cards?
Obviously.
Yes, we're good citizens.
Somebody told me that my open was my first day like them register.
I went to get registered.
No, I
on
really
the
thought
last
that
day.
I really thought that you were hired by IEC or something.
Yeah, a lot
with
of people
that
thought I was
resume.
influencing for the IEC.
Who knows? She
Oh,
could have been
influencing,
hired.
I'm not.
influencer bay. Okay, hashtag influencer
Levels.
From
Hashtag come
But no, I
specialist.
wasn't. I really just woke up and I was like, okay, this is happening. What can I do? And that's why I did that whole trend, got the information together, and then I keep asking people to go and get their voters cards. So on the first day, I went and got my voters card. You know what happened? I rang. So the first time I went, I had something else to do because I'm here also, and I had to diligence to those things. So I went, filled the form. It was looking like it was going to be a long wait, so I took the form with me and then came back afterwards. So did the whole rang, got there, and the woman just kept telling me, "Watch us about me. Ekatil about me. Yobukani. I'm tall. Your setup is not right for people like me."
Like, yeah.
Went through all of that, got my voter's card, got home and saw that they listed me as male. And I just gave up at that point. And I was like, oh, mata what's man album for small living for, and then I was like, dangadem election day, and you find one very, very yabate
Bombo
person
clan.
like
Big
you,
bombo clan.
and they decide to prevent you from voting
voting.
Wait,
based
yabate
on that
person like
tiny,
who?
Yeah.
like you, how does he say? Like a tiny technicality and tell you, no, you're not going to vote.
Some things you don't respond to, Hadi. Just
It's the
let it
facts.
I'm really shook.
It'd
but
be the
okay.
facts.
No,
So what
but
was your
it-
experience? Did you do the long? Because a lot of people are complaining about long waits
It
and
took
all.
me literally 2 seconds. I went to stadium, and when I got there, they had just gotten off their break. So
Oh.
the Maduga said, I was the first person. So I was there for under 5 minutes. It was
And
so
it was
quick.
done.
Mhm.
Wow. I was there from 8 a.m.
You
to
were tweeting
11.
your experience.
Yeah, I was there for about 3 hours. I got there and it was a whole hall full of people. It was hot. It was humid.
Yeah.
It
In
was
this
just
COVID
horrible.
times.
Yeah, and you had people fighting over, oh, I got here before you, Malafinjake, and things
Wasn't
like
there
that.
a queue though?
There was a queue, but there's always
Yeah,
that
it's
one
Gambia.
person who comes and sees someone they know and then tries to sneak into the queue. So, you had all of that. But then in the end, yeah, I went up, got my voter's card. I got mine on the last day that the polling station around my
Was
house was
closing.
closing. Yeah, that's when I went. Because I thought they'd be open till 11th of July. But then I realized that was
They
the
were
last
shifting,
day.
yeah. There are some centers that are open throughout
Yeah.
and some that like are
I had,
closing.
so I
I went
honestly
and
had
got-
the easiest.
And the thing is, for my house this time, it's actually a good thing that everyone has a voter's card.
Yeah. So
Like
everyone's
last
eligible.
election, I was the only one who voted. Even though everyone else was like 18 and above, I was the only one who voted. But this election, we're all above
Yeah.
18 and everyone has a voter's card. So yeah.
And that's one thing I've noticed. Like, there's been a lot of talk, but also a lot of action around people just going to register. So a lot of CSOs also have been involved in the education to get people to go register. There's been a lot of controversy as well around the attestations and all, but we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that. But what I see basically is a lot of young people, especially, who've never voted before, who've never really been interested in elections, even when they were eligible, now registering to vote. And so, yeah.
I think that's because people have seen the power of a vote,
Yep.
right? Last election, people were not keen on voting because everyone just assumed, what happened
Yeah.
in the past is just what's going to happen. We're going to vote and Jammeh is still going to win. But now people have seen the power of their votes and,
It's so wild that an election actually got Jammeh out.
No one would,
It
who
was
would have
so
thunk
unexpected.
it? Like, who would have thunk it? Even
thought-
he didn't believe it.
everyone
Even
thought
the people who won did not believe it.
People always thought it would be a coup d'etat or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. But
I
it was
rejected
elections
results
that
in
got him out.
totality.
So that's a good thing. If you did not register, unfortunately, by the time you listen to this, it will be too late. Unless there's an extension. Let's hope there's that extension for those who
Yeah.
can't register. I really wish the people in the diaspora had the chance
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to vote. Their contributions have been immense, and I think it's really unfair
Something
that they're
like
not
speak their
they're
voice.
not getting that chance. So I think the only option they would have is come now while registration's happening, go back, elections to getting a new.
And that is
It's
actually
a lot of-
unfair on
Who
them.
has the
because
means? They don't
who
even
has the
have-
means
people
and
don't
the
have
time
the
of
means.
work you'd have to take to come
Exactly.
and go back.
I mean,
come
I
on.
can sell my vote to anyone in the diaspora. So if you want, I can come back and you just tell me
I'm
which
not
party
sure, but
to vote
even
for and
even
you
if
pay
we
me.
don't have like voting for them, they should have been some means of voting by proxy or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
know?
this is something they could legitimately really
Yeah,
if they
they could
wanted.
really
No, but
Yeah,
I
this is what
think,
I
but
wanted.
I really think that with this government, they realize that they don't have a lot of supporters outside of the country.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, like,
They-
if he
yeah.
had more people,
But I
that
know
he
they've
knew
come
would-
together to take
Yeah,
legal
they sued,
action.
yeah.
So let's see how that goes. One thing
I
that's
don't know.
interesting through it all. So the IEC has been putting out reports, I think every week or so, showing the data. So how many people have registered so far, and it's data that's shared per region, and you're seeing like the trend. So it's a lot of people. But one thing that has really jumped out for so many people observing this is that we have so much more women registering for the voters cards than we have men. And this is uniform across all of the regions, and sometimes the margins are like really huge.
Wow.
And the first time I saw the first release, I was like, okay, so the reality is not that women are not participating in politics. It's really at what level are we participating,
Yeah.
and on what side are we participating. And so I really just wanted us to get into that discussion around when we talk women's political participation and say, oh, there's low participation of women, what do we really mean? Especially given the figures we're seeing now, understanding that women are the majority voters. What do we mean when we say there's not enough political participation?
No, so I think what happens is women are good enough only to get the vote. So they're good for your campaigns, they're good for your yai campaigns, they're good for all of that. But the higher we get, but it's a societal thing where it's like, you can make decisions, but you can't make all the total decisions that need to be made. So it's fine if you're electing or you're propping your man up, but like the higher you get, and like when it comes to more important positions, women aren't really given the space or even encouraged to take up those positions. It's like, oh yeah, we want to encourage women to get into politics, but what level of the politics are you telling us to get into, or are you allowing us to get into?
Reminds me of a conversation with the 2IW consultations we had with women political leaders, and the woman was talking about, oh, these politicians, they only know us when they want the vote. But once you vote them in office, they pass you by on the streets. It's like they've never met you before. And it really just reflects what happens once it's election season. And funny enough, all of them know the gender language. Everyone knows about equality, everyone knows about equity, everyone knows about empowerment. But once you get the vote, you get the position, women no longer are important on your agenda.
We met a woman in Woolly once who said to us that when it's time for elections campaign, they even see the president.
Yeah.
But after that, they don't see anyone, and it just shows you how, whether it's the president or all the other political parties, how everyone just sees women as tools to be used to achieve their goals, and once they achieve that goal, then it's like, you know what, when it's done, it's over, we're not looking at you anymore. And it all goes to, you know, I think it's also affected by, like President Sirleaf said, I think women don't know the power we have. First of all, we don't know how much power we hold, because imagine if, like we said, with the current registration, you have all these women getting registered. If, for example, the women members or female members for political parties said, okay, if we don't get this amount of seats allocated to us at the, for example, National Assembly elections, we're not going to support the campaign process. What do you think is going to happen? Because literally all these processes are run by women. They're the ones who cook the food that people eat. They organize the events. They bring everyone together. They decide on the ashabis. They do all the dancing and the entertainment and everything. So it's a matter of women also not knowing the power that we have and not realizing that we can actually change the narrative if we want to, instead of just being, you know, tools.
I feel like it's a little simple to say that.
Is it?
Let's hear it.
No, I think it's very simple to say that, because in our communities, like with the way patriarchy functions, it's one thing to know or to have knowledge about something, but it's another thing to implement it. You can be like, oh yeah, you don't know the power that you have. You tell them about the power, great, but then what happens next? Because there's still going to be violence perpetrated against them if they even wish to access those powers. It doesn't matter how rich the woman is. It doesn't matter how educated, how, you know, how well known she is. What's her name? That Lizzie.
Yeah, Yunsen.
Yunsen, all of that. It doesn't. It literally doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, even if they're like, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna cook for, you know, for this campaign or this and that. So how to do your daughter if your husband is part of that party?
That's true.
So I think that's the thing. Like, it's really simple to just.
And I think it's an interesting point you raise around voting patterns in homes, because I know these stories have been told around how the head of the household is the one who decides how you know, the members of the household vote. And I think I agree as well, because even when the campaigns are happening, they tell the women, the politicians themselves, so they understand the power that women have. I think the problem is really at what level does that power stop? Because then you look at something like, oh, you have councillors at local government level. Why do you need to have lady councillors? You understand? So I know they are part of the National Women's Council. It's part of, you know, I guess, affirmative action that they're taking to make sure there's some representation. But then how much power do these people have? Compared
and
to
even call them the lady councillors.
That's what they call. Yeah,
I know.
So you have the councillors and then you have the lady councillors. So how much power do they have? Understanding that, I'm not exactly clear on how they are selected, but it doesn't follow the same process as all of these elections. So how much power do they really have? And for me, I think what it also does is it relegates them to just dealing with women's issues.
And that's what
so you think about governance, yes, but then it's also just women's issues. Women's rights is what you're working on, women's entrepreneurship, which is not bad in itself, but I think it really just keeps that box. It enforces or reinforces that limitation, and they hardly are able to break away from it. And it leads to a point where it leads to a point where that's what people aspire to. Oh, I want to be a lady councillor. You understand? As opposed to, I want to be the chairperson of this council, or the council. I want to be governor.
To be vice president.
Exactly.
Being president.
Exactly.
The lady councillor thing is just really tokenism. It's just tokenism. The same way all of these political parties have a male
women's
president,
wing.
and then they have the female
Yeah.
vice president, and then they have the women's wing and all of that. It's
Because
just,
I'd
it's
read
just
that
madness.
before around the youth wings and the women's wings. And for me, I'm like, if your political party is as progressive as you want us to believe, if your political party is, and I think this happens with, I'll not say all, because I do not know the makeup of all the political parties, but a lot of them have those. You know, you have a youth president, you have a women's president, you have a mobilizer, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, if your political party is as progressive and as inclusive as you say it is, why do you need those segregations? Everybody should have a fair chance to any of the roles. So you have your executive roles, anyone can contest for them. And so I just wonder what the root is. Is it a case of the women have put themselves forward for those roles, but the selections are still going to the men, or what really is the issue?
I think, like Hadi said, patriarchy, right? Because remember when we met, the woman who said she wanted to contest for the National Assembly seat in her district, and then her family literally said if she contested, they would disown her.
Yeah.
So she had to step back and then let her cousin run, and the cousin is now the National Assembly member for their district. So it's a matter of them not being given the opportunity, honestly. Women are not given the opportunity, and even where they're given the opportunity, they're not made to feel like it is their right to get it. It's made to seem as if, oh, we're doing this for you, to empower you, but really it is your right as a paying member of a political party.
The empowerment policies.
Empowerment policies.
We all know how I feel about the word empowerment.
And you know how they all say, oh, our women are so empowered. See, we have a female vice president. The head of the youth wing is a woman. But what power do they hold? There's a difference between holding the position and having power to actually make decisions. All of these, for most of these, outside of the political parties, even in our institutions, usually women who head institutions do not really have the power that they supposedly have. You know,
I'm a bit nervous about this year's elections. I don't know why. I think it's basically the climate and what we're seeing right now. The insults, the vulgarity, the violence, it's just a lot. And so there's been a lot of talk around, oh, this election might end in conflict and stuff like that. I hope it doesn't. I don't know what you guys are feeling really, but I'm pretty anxious about December's elections.
I don't know why. I have a feeling that the Bumbleclad is going to get re-elected.
Don't speak it into existence.
No, that's why I didn't even say the
Manifestation
name.
is a real thing.
No, but honestly,
Because it's scaring me. Because this man is buying. He's literally taking away from Jammy's playbook. Nanka. And you can talk the chahan, but he's not
he's
playing.
been doing so for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
He has, and we're just ignoring it. And honestly, like Hadi, for me, I would be shocked if the head of our national VDC does not win the elections. That is what is going to shock
I hope
me.
he doesn't. I honestly don't know who's going to win. There's a lot of talk around the tussle being between two major parties. But for me, it's really just the outcome after that. So what happens after the election?
But with the polarization too, I am with you.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and we're seeing it.
It's become really nasty, and we
it's
still
become
have like
really
6 months
nasty.
to elections.
Insults, tribal comments, and it's just a lot of unnecessary stuff. I feel like there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of anger in people of this country. Like people are really angry, and it's coming out in very violent ways that, if not controlled early, it could spiral into something out of control. I mean, Gambia is not a place that is beyond electoral violence. We're not better than the countries where these things happen.
On that hill and feel like this is not something
we feel
that's
like
ever
this.
gonna
It's
happen.
not Gambian. Gambians are not like this, but we're not beyond that. We've seen it all over, all over the place, and we've seen it also in the increase in violence in the country in the past couple of years.
In
sections, tiny sections. You have people rioting every few months. You have the youth protesting every few months, burning tires and doing things like that. So all of that anger is there, and we still have not dealt with it. From 2017 to now, all these protests that have happened against the government and against things that the security sector have done, they've not been addressed. They're still there. It's like, when there's something under the carpet and you keep sweeping it and it keeps building up, eventually it becomes something that would trip you. And so in Wetowood, that's where we're going.
Let's hope not.
Hopefully not, but
let's hope not. 2016, 2021.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's like 10 political parties, right?
Right.
And they're increasing.
No, but I think what's going to happen is once the election date begins to come, you're going to see a lot of mergers. So it's an opportunity thing, really. I know a lot of the people who are registering parties and contesting notice and working is So I think for me, it's really a case of positioning yourself, really. Last minute be what ship do you join and hope na ñom suñ winee yow di nga am sa wala, just like we saw
Have
with
you
the
all
coalition.
felt like you know what party you plan on?
I already do, yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Unless something better comes up, and I doubt it will happen. But I think I know where my vote is going.
I'm 90% certain.
Watch out, y'all.
What I know.
In one of these episodes, we might endorse a candidate.
What I know 100% is there are 3 parties that I know I would never vote for. That one I know
a lot of Gambians. They know who they are not voting for, but they don't know who they are voting for.
So yeah, that's it.
I think that's basically where a lot of people are. A lot of people don't know where they're voting yet, but they absolutely know who they're not voting for. So we can't ask you to tell us who you're voting for, but yeah, start to think about your decisions. Let's read the manifestos and understand what their programs are.
I was about to say that. Maybe we can have like a episode around where we can like go through the parties, or just something.
I am not interested.
Listen, you can just do like me and start by eliminating the people you're not voting for.
That's the easiest thing to do. You eliminate and then you have your finalists.
Then, you have
then
your
review and send your seat.
And hopefully all your finalists merge.
Thank goodness. The 2016 vote was pretty easy for me, but this time, my God, this is a good time to take a break. We'll be right back to continue our discussion on women and politics in the Gambia. So yeah, Al-Nimbara Gambia Musso. Al-Nimbara. And I hope we'll continue to say that, but seeing that happen for a lot of women moving to the top and beating past that vice president position, it's back again on the Musso podcast. We are discussing women and politics in the Gambia, especially within the context of election year. We're heading into elections. Everyone who has registered has their voter's card now. I think the next step is really deciding who to vote for if you have not already done that. And in the first part, we were talking about, women are not given the opportunity. And sometimes we hear people say, women are not taking the opportunity, right? And so for me, it's always been a question of which is the real one. Of course, I understand the structural issues that limit women from, standing up and showing up for those opportunities. But I think sometimes we say that a lot. It's women don't come up, they don't show up, they don't contest, but it really is not as simple as Hadi has said. And so what are the things that are barring women from running for office? What's stopping you guys from running for office?
I haven't reached the age I can run yet, right?
For which of the roles though?
Yeah, because if it's National Assembly, you're way past the age.
What's the age for National Assembly?
21.
Yeah.
Oh.
MP Bakau.
When's the next election?
Exactly. How long has she stayed here? The residency thing.
What's Osama Street Hamnema? No, but I'm thinking about when we had the training, and how women kept talking about there's natural roles that stop them, because basically I had done a training a few months ago around it was basically a whole women's empowerment package. The word empowerment makes me want to throw up, by the way. But when we started talking about the politics section, women were talking about how there are natural roles that stop women from getting into politics. Natural roles being pregnancy, and feeling no, I know your face because we made the same face, but it's it's a thing that is said where they felt or pregnancy or even having to take care of the children basically comes first before going around and campaigning and being on your period while campaigning and all the struggles that come with it,
the times when the meetings are held,
and even the times how late it is, or all of that. And it's stuff that should not be natural roles, because we all know that these are products of patriarchy, but these are some of the things that women actually say that hinders their participation. And these are women that are not even financially there. So even before we talk about the financial burden of campaigning, of registering, of doing all those different things, or even having the time of the day to go and do that, it's a lot.
And even before you get to those things, because some of the things you mentioned, there are things that begin when you are a woman, right? You're grown. But from when you're a child, access to education, that in itself limits you. Because like the National Assembly or the presidential elections, the requirements, you know, you're required to graduate from high school and to be not so fluent, but, you know, be able to hold conversations and, you know, do things in the English language. The language of the National Assembly, for example, is English language. If you are not educated, this doesn't mean you're illiterate, because you could be, you could be educated in the Arabic language, Yangidem Dara and stuff. But if you're not formally educated, you do not have a high school diploma, you're automatically disqualified from becoming a National Assembly member or from becoming or contesting for the presidency. So imagine in a country with an illiteracy rate that is so high, especially in women and girls, how many women are automatically barred from contesting just because their right to education was violated when they were young. They didn't have access to education. And then this causes the ripple effect where, you know, as Hadi said, it's a triangle. The higher you go, the fewer women you see. Because honestly, there's also this thing where women who have that education requirement or higher are not interested, some of them are not interested in politics because of also the violence that you face as a woman in politics. The attacks, you know, personal attacks against your family. It's just stressful.
Can I add to that? Sure. I'm thinking about the whole myth about women not supporting other women, because they also like to sell that in to stop women from going into politics in many different ways. Two ways I'm thinking about is how, so someone doing love voter. But that's also because, like, I feel like we're not talking about the fact that, like, we're not having enough discussions about what the policies are for them to know whether or not you're capable of leading. And two, also, it's just a way for men to take up more positions.
And even with that, so back to the consultations I was talking about. So one of the things they mentioned, so you're a woman, you wake up and you decide you want to run for political office at whatever level. It could be at councillor level or, you know, chair of your VDC, whatever it is, you know, and you're contesting perhaps against a man. And what they do usually, so they also, and this is why that whole women not supporting women is a patriarchal construct, and it's men who push it, right?
It's a lie.
So they do that and they go to other women and use them. You understand? So because they're now able to sow this, it's been said over and over again, and a lot of women actually believe this, even if we say it different. A lot of women believe that women don't support women, and so they go, the man is the one who goes, uses other women, and they're the ones who do, you know, the smear campaigns, the insults, the digging out your history. They do that. And obviously when that happens, how is it seen? Oh, so that came out. One of the other things they mentioned was how, for example, you as a woman, you get up, you're interested in running for political office, you express that desire, and you have people coming to your husband, for example, if you're married, to say, you know, you're letting your woman run for political office. Does this mean she's now the man of the house? Because, leadership is about men and for men. And when it doesn't work, so for example, you have a husband who doesn't mind, who doesn't care about that, who is ready to support you, they go to the wider in-law community. You understand? So because you know they sometimes have a hold on your husband, they can put some pressure on him, to put pressure on you to let it go. And so they use all of these different tactics to frustrate women and just have them abandon the whole cause. But then we have seen the attacks that women have experienced in Gambia. You think about Tuma, you think about Rahim Ali Klo, you think about Marisok, and so many of them that we probably don't even know about. I think now it's in our faces because of social media, because everything is out there. But it would have happened as well ages ago, where they're doing this to discredit you. You know, I remember with Rahim Ali Klo, they were talking about, you know, the things that people frown on in Gambia. So, sexual, what, drugs, blah, blah, blah. You understand? With Lizzie, they brought in all sorts of stories. And some of these things are not even true. But because of the communities we live in, people just absorb the stories and they make them your brand and just decide all of a sudden, no, kid in your exactly. Blonde hair,
short hair.
That was
skirt, whatever.
That was it.
And even beyond the smear campaigns, there's also the labels that are put on you. For example, if you're a woman who knows to fight for her right, you're aggressive. Aggressive. You're causing problems in our political party. You're causing instability. You're dividing the party. Whereas if it's a man doing that, the man is seen as being assertive and, he's strong-willed, he's a good leader. But these qualities are not appreciated in women. And when we look at the Rohi Malik laws, people would tell you, defante kat la. She doesn't know anything. All she does is fight. She's always fighting people. She's always fighting people. But also look at how she is constantly sidelined in many of the projects
by government,
by the VDC.
NVDC.
In a lot of the projects going on in Banjul, huge projects, she's always coming out to say, this was done without my knowledge. Nobody consulted me. Nobody informed me that this was going on. How do you expect a whole mayor of a city to take part in a project if she's not informed? They haven't done this with the previous mayors. We've had the Samba Fals, the Pasala Jengs, all these people. And, all these people, I believe Rohi Low, for me, she has done a lot more than a lot of the male mayors we've had in the past. In such a short time. But she's always looked down on because, one, she doesn't speak English. When she speaks, most of the time she speaks in the local language. These are our languages. This is the best way to communicate with people.
And she kills it when she uses
the languages. She
colonialism. Remnants of colonialism are still showing to
honestly,
this day.
with Tuma, it's always, Tuma is always causing problems with PPP. I don't want to go deep into that because she's currently going to court with them over some issues in the party. But and like Marisok, like Hadi said, the hair, the dress code, she's showing cleavage. Her hair is blonde, her hair is short. Lizzie Insin, she was also tagged as very aggressive. Even on election day, she had issues. And I remember, people were sharing the videos and calling her names and saying she was just causing problems.
You know what's really funny? The fact that a lot of these women that we see in places that are running for contesting, they're not even challenging patriarchy like that.
No,
exactly.
They're not. They're really not. They just want the position like their fellow men. So imagine if they were like,
running
I'm a feminist,
Imagine as mamas. No.
Sa loxi la ñoo njëkk a criticize.
Well, I mean,
Rasta government.
And your piercings.
In fact, what's the name of the Rasta government guy? If you need
Banky.
Yes.
I'll run under you. I'll be part of your party, no problem. No, but it's like what I'm thinking about also is the fact that all of these attributes that for men are looked at, as good, they're negative to women.
Yeah.
Which is so wild because if this makes him a good leader, then why is it not going to make the woman a good leader? And let's face it, I have not to say that I've never seen a good leader that's a man, but they're very far and few.
I haven't.
If their listeners, if you know of any male leaders that are good, decent human beings that are actually doing the work that needs to be done, let us know. I would like to hear about this because right now it's sounding like a myth. And if we're seeing all these issues consistently, to be honest.
Every day we take 100 steps back.
No, honestly. So it's like maybe we should look at the people that we're electing and stop electing these men based on the fact that they're men and really look at their political positions and really look at the work that they've already done to the point of whether or not we plan on re-electing them. Instead of just letting them continue to steal this country's money and instead of letting them continue our futures, because you suffer not suffer but we have a good leader that's who's tighter in their pockets, who's not going to spend willy-nilly to get re-elected Morgan right now so that we can get to where we need to get to in the end.
Yep, I would shout a slogan right now, but we're keeping it apolitical on this platform.
Oh, I'm not apolitical. I think I've made my stance extremely clear.
But so this is another thing that comes up a lot, and I think you've mentioned briefly is with regards who has access to, the economic power to be able to contest elections, because campaigns are not cheap.
Even registration.
Especially in Gambia.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we're not yet a country where our politics is about a politics of issues and a politics of development. Ours is really a politics of Benachin and Tegasabar and Humbai and Mumbai. So one of the things, again, that comes up a lot is how the women do not have that money, and a lot of them who want to do it sometimes would have to depend on their partners. And so, again, it comes back to the cycle of getting their approval before you can now even express your desire to run for office at all. And I think that's a huge challenge around who has access to finance. And even when they have their entrepreneurial initiatives, it's still not enough to get them to run for political office, to get mobilize even just your team alone. Saka nga duga see your campaign materials, your media, your publicity, just your whole campaign in general, to the point of getting
it is to register a political party.
Exactly. So who has that money? Really, who has that money? It's the men who have that money. So they are the ones who are able to register political parties. And once you register, and then what? Because one got register, but registration is not what gets you, you know, the votes. You need to connect with the people, travel, get to the so-called grassroots, you know, engage with the people, try to get the vote. All of that costs money. And again, within the patriarchy, the money does not reside with the women.
It's literally only millionaires that have a chance at
or people backed by millionaires, and the millionaires are backing the men because Senkabudu need to be in existence and need to continue to function. Anyways, there have been some women who have made it out. Not yet at the level of presidency. We haven't seen yet. I wouldn't mention vice presidency because I feel like that's a huge tokenistic position in Gambia.
It is.
It's a placeholder position, you know, and so I'm not even going to talk about that. So perhaps let's look at National Assembly where they were voted in. Some of them were nominated as well, but they were voted in. And so we've had women, you know, get to these positions. And when we usually talk about, oh, let's support women, more women leaders, we're thinking when they get in there, they're going to support us, they're going to, you know, champion the cause of women. And it doesn't mean that's going to be their only focus, but then they have the sensitivities and the experiences and the realities to be able to push, you know, that agenda. But is this what we always see?
No.
It's funny you said that because the National Assembly has 6 women and 3 were voted in, 3 were nominated.
So is that what we usually see with the women that we have seen make it to political office, for example? You know, how can we say they have contributed towards, you know, the improvement of the lives of women, girls, non-binary persons, marginalized populations, persons with disabilities in the country? Not as that their sole responsibility, but then
from my personal experience, I haven't seen or heard. Well, I haven't seen like, you know, them actually doing work that's specific to that. Like all I remember is our little experience in 2015, 2016, when child marriage was being banned, and one of the National Assembly members, one of the women National Assembly members, had the nerve to tell these children that these cell phones were why they were getting pregnant and blah 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 blah. And
this
really
is the
didn't
second time you're
focus
saying
on
this
the
on the
issue.
podcast.
I would say it every single time. I will literally
We
like
were
be pissed
shocked.
off about this for the rest of my life. I remember
So it's the mobile phones and not the lack of sex education
And
and
the
not
context
the men,
as well,
not
where
the
you had
older men.
survivors
Yeah.
of
Who
child
was
marriage
standing
in the room sharing their stories, and you're still
the
saying
best
that.
thing you could tell survivors was that you're basically
It's their
blaming
fault.
them for what they're going through. And if that's, you know, if that's the caliber of people that we have at the National Assembly, or the caliber of women, because also the men are garbage there too.
Oh, they're trash.
So if that, because one of them was talking about how they didn't even know what the legal age for consent/marriage was.
they don't care to know. And, you know, I don't think it has changed because currently there are many bills before the National Assembly on, you know, and removing discriminatory laws against women. And I think I heard that the one on the Skin Bleaching Prohibition Act, to repeal it, to remove the law, it was rejected by the National Assembly. And even while it was on, I heard from the proceedings that I followed, I heard a lot of the male National Assembly members fighting against that bill. But I did not hear any of the female National Assembly members fighting for that bill. And that bill was basically to get rid of this law that says that any woman who uses bleaching, any person who uses skin bleaching products can be prosecuted. But even in the implementation of the law, it was always against women. It was female security officers who would get arrested and then have to spend a day or two, you know, suspended from work and things like that. But sen jabari sen janghay ak ñom goor yi sen boppa ñu ngi xéssal, but they don't see that. All they saw is that this is a bill that is going to give women freedom, and women are not deserving of freedom. Honestly, that is how I saw it.
I think somebody during the proceedings, one of the National Assembly members, I can't remember who, moo leen wax ne suñ definee tey ñu bëggoon a implement law bi soo leen ñibbee doo leen fekk seen jabar yi seen biir kër yi because ñoom ñëpp ñu ngi ko use.
Was one of the people, the Doi people, of course they have sense. He was one of the few people there, you know, who actually highlighted all these past cases of violence against women who bleach their skin and why it's actually necessary to get rid of this law, because really There's this thing where if you have a law, even if it's not being implemented, someone can wake up at any day and say, I'm enforcing this law because it is a law. And, it's crazy.
And it's been enforced before.
It's been, yeah.
It's where they're told to go home.
Yeah.
The same color model, so natural color there, so then you come back to work.
And there were times when they've actually been arrested.
Yeah.
And
Those ones are
detained.
documented.
Yeah,
They're documented. But I think a lot of them approached the bill from a moralist point.
Exactly.
And so they did not really want to understand the context of discrimination and how, that's really the point they took.
It's funny that you hear about morality from the most amoral people to ever exist.
I mean, you walk out of the National Assembly Hall, see, I'm going to say billboard, see, advertising the products. So.
No, but for me, that makes me afraid because beyond the skin bleaching prohibition, there are other bills tabled before them. One of them actually would allow women to register birth of their children without a father. Because right now, if I had a child, the dad is not in the picture, or I don't know the father, I can't register the child's name with my own name. You have bills like that before Parliament, and I am so afraid that all of them are going to get rejected because, we have more male National Assembly members, and the women before the National Assembly, honestly, I don't feel like they fight enough for women of this country.
There's a push for quotas at the National Assembly for women, for young people. I'm not a huge fan of quotas. I understand the purpose. I understand, the goal, but I'm not a huge fan because I see how easily, it gives way for tokenism. You're just there so they can say there's a woman in there, but really, what are you doing? What are you changing? Danga gis a whole proceeding do diga sa ken mo si jiheni. So for me, I'm not a huge fan. I understand why it can be done or it should be done, and I wouldn't object to it being done and having those positions. And I think beyond just pushing for quotas, it's also making sure that those people who will fill those seats actually, are competent. They have the qualifications, they have the knowledge, they have the connections with the communities that they're representing, and they're able to push for laws or also just for projects, even outside of the National Assembly, whatever it is they're doing that would benefit the whole community without, entrenching or sustaining the discrimination that we see and the inequalities and all of that. What do you think?
That's actually in the bill because from what I know, it's that provision or that law is taken from what we have in the draft constitution. That law is taken from what we have in the draft constitution, in the sense that you would have these quota seats for women, and it would just be women contesting, but the same qualifications for a National Assembly member apply. So it's not like you're picking up random women and giving them the seats, but it's just that it should be apolitical and it should be just women contesting, because we were being honest, and the honest reality was that political parties were not willing to give women a chance to contest. So there had to be a way to get women into the National Assembly outside of the spectrum of the outside of the party structures.
So
and the honest, it was supposed to be two seats per region, so 7 regions, so that's like 14 seats reserved for women. And then there was still a provision for political parties requiring them to have to still have that making it compulsory on them to not deny their female party members to contest regularly because there's an allocated seat for women, right? Okay. So I can't say, okay, women can contest in the quota system, so I'm not going to allow a woman to contest. So there was that, and I think political parties would also be required to 10% of their seats of their should be for youth. Of their candidates should be youth as well. That was in the draft constitution, but that thing is gathering dust somewhere.
I mean, when you look at it, the men are mediocre there. So, so sometimes when we talk about these qualifications as well, I stop and think, look who we have as male leaders in this country. But I think as a country as well, with all of the challenges we have had, we should be moving towards more, towards a system that really rewards people based on merit as opposed to just,
Are we there yet?
So that's why I say we should start moving toward, because we can't stick towards, we can't stick in this position.
That because if we're at a place where people are saying, hell no, we're not going to have a quota system, would those people let No,
but the things need time to change. So if we don't start the conversations now, it's not going to change. I mean, look at FJ. I'm 30-something years before we can get a law that's not being enforced. But that's another conversation. But I feel like, we need to depart from that. Especially, for me, I think 2016, a lot of people had a lot of hope. Oh, change, new Gambia, what, all of that has been dashed. And I think it's because sometimes we're really complacent in what we accept as the norm in this country. So we just accept mediocrity as the standard. And if we're not pushing for more, if we're not pushing for better, I'm not exactly sure I have all the answers with regards how we do this, but we should demand that as a people.
I'm hearing your recommendations.
I don't have any.
Zero?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I don't have any.
I don't either.
But education is important because I feel like the more conscious people are, the more aware they are. And we've seen that shift as well, especially with the registration we're seeing right now. People are no longer just content with, oh, kimo nekk suñ leader bi lum def baax na. Obviously, you have the majority that are not there. But then for me, that's why the education matters. And you're moving section by section. People are becoming more aware. And hopefully you move from a situation where it's a politics of, but also people are poor. So you give me Sakomala, that's what I'm going to do.
And that's why it's so easy for politicians to buy votes, because they're preying on poverty.
No, that's why we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they will never fix
completely
poverty.
preying on poverty. Yeah, because they know that that's how they're able to get the votes that they need. So I mean, if you somebody makes a village be and I know how difficult it is for them to get that sako sugur and sako malo, of course they're going to be indebted to me, and they're going to vote for me.
Yeah. How do we fix it? How do we get more women, more competent women in positions of power?
Demolish gender roles. Demolish it, because I'm sitting here and I remembered how when I was getting registered, the woman who sat next to me, she received a call from her husband. And it was basically him asking how much longer it was going to take her to get registered, because she had to go home and cook. So I think he asked her like how many people was there, like less than 10 people ahead of her, and she was like, there are more than 40 people ahead of me. But when I come, then I just talk about a chinrek. It's like, so yeah. If we don't demolish patriarchy.
But how realistic is that on a step-by-step basis? How do we,
On a step-by-step basis, I know, like, you guys really do not like this, but I think the quota system is the first step. I say this because I've seen it work. I've done research on it, and I've seen it work. I've seen where in Rwanda, I hate quoting Rwanda because Kagame is a bastard. But anyway, yeah, they introduced the quota system, and within, I think, a few years, they were able to increase the women's representation to about 62% in the National Assembly. Wow. Yeah, Senegal, when Ablaye Wade introduced the parité thing, they were able to increase women's political representation in national to about 45% or so. Because Senegal, what they have is, if a political party brings 5 male candidates, they also have to bring up 5 female candidates. Mm-hmm. So there has to be that parity. If you don't have parity, then you cannot register, right? So I think we may not like it. It may not be the best solution, but for a society like ours, I think it's the first step towards, achieving a long-term goal of, getting rid of all these, relics that, we instill. I think it's a temporary.
No, it is a temporary measure. Yeah. And that's why I don't mind it, but I really just wanted to move to a point where you're not just plugging people in there to fill the seats and say representation has been achieved. You understand? Because that's what we see a lot of, especially in Gambia. So yes, the quota systems work. We've seen it, especially in the countries that you have mentioned. But we also need to see it work in ways where, we have seen in those countries where the women are pushing and, they're not just there as placeholders and ticking the box to say, oh, we're progressive and we've been able to meet
and I think
numbers.
Often with women, it's always just a matter of a woman getting her foot in the door.
Yeah.
Because usually women who are determined, once they get in the door, they actually show you what they're capable of. Because, like the woman who asked us why we're not going to politics at the training, not all of us are meant to go into politics. Some of us, we don't like politics, but we are able to provide resources and help women who want to do. And I think that's what it needs to be. Those of us who are able to help should help the women who actually are interested and are capable of doing these things.
I don't think anyone is outside of politics, and we're all involved.
No, so I was going to say that. I realized when I was younger, I always used to tell myself, oh, I could never get into politics. Yeah. Like, not that it's not a woman's place, but I was like, I just can't deal with that headache. And also, I didn't see myself as a politician. But the older you get and the more that you see all these, issues going on and that you can actually fix it, it motivates you to want to get into it. I know for a fact, like, I think somewhere down the line I will get into politics.
Vote for Hadis.
Being a feminist in itself is political.
No, I mean,
our lives are political.
Our lives are
very
you can't
political.
really divorce yourself.
And it's one thing to sit and complain and to be like, oh, these people are not doing anything. But it's also another to like try and get your foot in the door. It doesn't hurt. to try and get your foot in the door. And if you're shameless like me, they can throw whatever at you, but it's not going to stick. You're just going to have to get over it, and you're going to have to deal with
Campaign manager. I call dibs on that. I'll handle your PR. So yeah, I think there's a long way to go still, but there's also a lot that is being done that needs to be acknowledged, especially led by CSOs. Again, the CSOs are really the one, so they're the government, and then the government is the VDC. But they're doing a lot of work in this country to ensure more women, feel comfortable, are confident, to rise and take up these positions or even contest for them even.
They're doing all the work, not a lot of the work. They're doing
doing
all
all
the work.
And in every sector, it's always the CSOs that,
that are pushing it with their
in
little
every
resources,
sector,
little
in
capacity,
every
and they're
single
doing
sector.
everything. So there's a lot of people who are doing that work. And as you know, for Musso of the Week, we love to highlight the women who are doing the thing. And so, give it to us and go.
Yes, so this week's Musso is a very, very brave and very strong young woman. Brilliant young woman. I've seen her in spaces which I wouldn't dare go into, and I'm always like at first before I knew, I was like, Halabi, I'm not fit there. Like, this girl is so brave, but she's an amazing young woman. She's very bold. She's very daring. She doesn't let anybody dim her light. She does what needs to be done. She says what needs to be said, and she gets attacked for it, but she keeps it moving. And she has also done a lot for women's political participation. She has an NGO that works on providing training for women who are interested in politics, and I think she's also part of a larger West African group that works on this and on women's political participation and representation. So our Musso of the Week is Miss Lala Toure. Lala of Genset, that's the name of her organization. Lala, you're our Musso of the Week because we're very proud of the work that you do. You're one of the few young women working in politics and actually taking steps to change the narrative, and we look forward to the greater things that you would do.
I know I'm older than her, but she's someone I want to be when I grow up.
I always want to be Lala when we grow up.
Really,
very brave, especially in this Gambian climate where she's seen it all and faced it all, but still thriving. And I think one thing I really like is how she's formed a whole team around this.
Yes.
All young women, brave, refusing to be deterred, and they're just doing everything they can to see more women, especially young women, take up leadership roles, whether in the political scene or elsewhere.
She's really the change you want to see.
Yeah. Thank you for all of your work, Lala.
Thank you so much again, Lala, and thank you to all our listeners. As always, we love hearing your feedback, and if you have any questions, do let us know. Let us know how you're preparing for this election cycle, if you have your voter's card, or we just want to know how you're getting yourself involved in this election process, and how we make better changes for our country and the future.
And of course, you know where to find us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Musso Podcast. I've been bad from spelling it out, so
Spell it.
Musso Podcast at MUSSOPODCAST. Find us there, share your thoughts, and like Hadi said, give us your feedback. #MussoPod, MUSSOPOD. We're waiting to hear from you. We know you can't tell us who you're going to vote for, or some of you cannot tell us, but let us know who your candidate is and why you chose them, and what you want to see this election cycle.
It can actually
Maybe
help us
can
narrow
sway
down.
us.
Yeah, because I'm doing the whole eliminating thing, so this can help me cut people off from my list. Yeah.
Maybe you can sway us, because some of us, we're decided, but we're looking for options as well. I know I'm kind of decided already. And one of the things we're looking at doing as a trio is seeing, how we examine the party manifestos. So when we get to the point where we know you actually run the election, because I don't think all the 20 Sangam parties are gonna run. Just examine the manifestos, look at what considerations they have made for women's advancement, education of girls, gender equality in general, equity, the different marginalized groups, and how they're hoping to, take care of these people as part of their policies. So that's something we're hoping to do. Hopefully we get to do it. And we'll be looking at that feminist analysis of the party manifestos. And thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking this journey with us on the Musso Podcast. This is episode 16. Can you believe
17. Boy, hey.
Whew. Oh my God. 17 episodes, and you all are still rocking with us, listening to the podcast and sharing it with your people.
In how many countries again?
Over 40 countries.
Wow.
People are listening to Musso in over 40 countries, and that's humbling. that's a humbling thing for us.
Anyway.
But thank you, everyone. Great opportunity to say thank you to Right Click, Evo, and Classic. Thank you for all of the amazing work you do, helping us to get this high quality content to our audience. Thanks to our 2 terrorists. Ñooñu lañ war a vote out.
Thanking them?
Ñooñu lañ war a vote out. Actually,
them?
we're skipping them this
Why
week.
are you thanking
The 2 ISA2s, go and collect your thank yous from the people that you respect.
You can collect it
From left click.
Yes.
From your single story from left click.
Exactly.
Go and collect it.
Thank you to everyone for tuning in. We hope you have a very wonderful week. Let's get into the elections with sound minds and vote for the right people because we're really tired of suffering in
Remember,
this
no
country.
violence.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.